So what I wanted to do tonight is to go through what's called the economic model. And Gary Keller had interviewed 160 agents that were netting over $1 million a year in net income. And based upon this, he came up with what is the four models of Keller Williams. The first one is called the economic model. The second one is called the lead generation model. And the third one is called the budget model. We actually have classes on budgeting and profit and loss statements and incorporation and how to run your business like a business. This is unheard of in real estate. And then the fourth one is called the organizational model, which means how do you get help in doing things. Now, I'm going to send you a copy of this worksheet, and I'm recording what I'm doing right now. And what I would like you to do, if you're willing to go through and fill out the worksheet. How many of you like spreadsheets? Anybody like spreadsheets? Not everybody's raising their hands. So the first thing you want to do is change the name. The person who developed this spreadsheet, his name is Calvin Merrigan. You might have guessed that. So I'm just going to make up somebody. All right. Now, Andy Agent. Why not? Now, one of the things that we would suggest that you put into your plan is some goal regarding adding people to your first level downline or the profit share tree. We have profit sharing, and the profit sharing is based upon people that join a market center and name you. The default setting is 3. Right? So in a year, you would have a goal to add 3 people. We'll talk about how to do that. We have agents that are making thousands of dollars a month in profit share. The next line in the model is gross income. And this is before paying the company royalties and that sort of thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, $175,000 doesn't sound bad, does it? Just as a starting point. And I'll show you once we've done the spreadsheet how you can make adjustments from the bottom up to the top. Our company dollar cap, does anybody know what that is? It's $30,000. In where Calvin is, it's only 19,000 something. The only problem is you have to live in Rochester, Minnesota. Right, so that's the only downside to that. So $30,000 is the most that you have to contribute to our market center. And $3,000 is what's called the royalty cap. That's how much you contribute to Keller Williams International. That's it. Right? It's 6% off the top, but it caps also at $3,000. To give you an idea, at Century 21, the royalty fee was 8% forever. Right? Forever. So 3,000 is about 3 transactions. So as we go through here, it says that 60%, the model for a Keller Williams agent is suggested that 60% of your business comes from listings. My experience has been people that are new and that have other jobs, it's oftentimes the reverse, that 40%, let me see if this is doing it right. Oops. Some of them are, you're going to have to play with it. So how about 0.4? How about 0.4? You could do whatever you can leave it the way you want. It's your goal. I'm just giving you an explanation as to how to make the changes in the spreadsheet, right? When I'm done, I'm going to process it, put it on YouTube, and send everybody who's in the room a link to it with a copy of the spreadsheet, right? So what is our average price of a listing? See, that's the other problem about working where Calvin works, because his average price is $185,000, and ours we're going to use just for purposes of we're going to use $700,000. Well, how last week what did I use? 650. How about 650? All right. It's okay if we're a little bit conservative, and there's sometimes I'm going to just put in 650 and 650. Whoops. I'm. What am I doing? It's a little dark. No, it's okay. That's all right. Now, the average commission percent in our market is more like 2.5. It's okay. I'm the next time I get a laptop, it's going to be backlit. It's really difficult right now. All right. There we go. So if it was a gross commission would be 16,250. Now, what I would suggest that you do when it comes to the agent's share of the commission, this is something that changes over time. So when you're new, on your first three transactions, there's an investment in the training and the coaching and the mentoring. And then when you're used, not new, then it reverts to 70%. And in order for us to have conservative numbers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just assume 50%. And that would mean you'll see what that does to the numbers, that you'd be getting about $8,125 on one of these transactions. $975 would go to Keller Williams International, but that caps at 3. You would get an average commission of 7,150. Now, what that would require for you to do 175,000 in gross income, that would require that you have a total of 4 listings that close and 6 buyers, right? Doing the 40% listings and 60% buyers. And then the next question, some of these numbers, the reason I'm recording this is that we change them. What percent of listings close? Now, right now, people are saying, well, 100% of all the listings that people take close. That's not actually true. Boy, this is... let's say it's 80%. And I'm just making this, I'll do this a little. I have to bring my little headlight next time to... So we're just assuming that 80% of the listings, by the way, that changes over time, right? There was a time where homes were on the market for a long time, the listings were sitting there, they were expiring. Right now the market has been much hotter for sellers, but it's cooling down. It depends on where you are. Now, what that would require for you to reach that goal of 170, and by the way, you can, as we scroll down, you'll see how much you're looking at 142,000 before any expenses. That you would need, if 80% close, you would need 5 listings and 8 buyers, 13 transactions, 8 buyers, 5 listings to reach that income goal. Now, that would mean that if you had, you would need zero point 0.4 listings and 0.7 buyers per month. Right? That would be the number of people you would need to get under a contract. Now, if we're asking what percent of your listings end up in a contract, a listing agreement, and what percent of the buyers agree to work with you, one of the advantages of the mentoring program is that those percentages are much higher than what they would be otherwise. Do you understand? If you were saying, well, as a brand new agent, if I went on a listing appointment, how many would I have to go on to get a listing? Now, unless it's your sister's house, and your sister says, give me the paperwork, I'll fill it out for you, right? Unless it's somebody that was going to list with you anyhow, your ratio might not even be 50%, right? You understand? Because people are going to ask you, so how long have you been in real estate, right? How many homes have you sold, right? So that percentage is going to be a lot higher. We're going to look at 80%. Now, what if you're looking at this like a business, which is what we would hope you would be doing, one of the things you're going to want to do is track your numbers, right? And say, well, I went on so many appointments, I got so many listings, right? I met with so many buyers, I got so many, because your mileage may vary. You might be doing better than this, you might be doing worse than this, and depending on what you're doing, we can sort of determine on what you need to do in order to reach those goals. Now, using an 80% of the listings end up appointments ending up in a listing, and 80% of the buyers' appointments ending up in a buyer, we're now down to 7 appointments that you need a year for listings, and 10 appointments you need a year working with buyers. You need 17 appointments a year in order to have the 11 transactions that you would need to gross $175,000. Pardon me? 11 is what it would say, 11 units. It rounds up a bit. I don't know why it rounded that up, but 11 would be a safer number, right? Isn't that right? So if we had, it says the number of closed units, that's 10. But not, it requires that we start more than we finish. So we're going to use 11. So that would mean closing less than 1 a month, right? Do you understand? If 11 is less than 1 a month. And if you had, could you, on a dual career basis, on a part-time basis, could you manage 17 actual appointments with clients in 1 year? Is that possible? It's not a lot, is it? Right? So that would put us at a total volume of 7 million. By the way, you would have, doing this, you would have capped, your annual gross would be $175,000. You would have paid $30,000 to the company and $3,000 to Keller Williams. You'd have $142,000 left over, but that's before expenses. And this chart over here, see if this works. Oops, and that worked really too well. Is from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Models, and what this is, so you can estimate what your expenses are likely to be per month. So, and whether or not they all fit the right category is these are just examples of what the millionaire real estate agents were spending. But for example, using technology, you might be spending, let's say, a minimum of $70 a month on websites and things like that. That's part of our model. Insurance could be auto insurance, but errors and emissions insurance is $100 a month. If you're doing other things, which you may or may not want to do, but other things, you can put those expenses in here, including a proration for what is it going to cost you to join the Association of Realtors and to renew, how much is it going to cost you on a monthly basis for the MLS. By the way, the MLS, and I know that the categories don't really work very well, but I'll put that in lead generation. The MLS is $66 a month, assuming you pay them on a quarterly basis. Notice what's happening each time I put in a number over here, it's being added up and put in the spreadsheet to change the amount that you're going to walk away from. Is everybody... Where I'm going to go with this, by the way, is I'm going to ask everybody to take a shot at the spreadsheet, right? If you're not good with spreadsheets, this isn't that difficult, right? You can watch my video. I've been told that if there's a program called VLC, which is called Videoland, and it allows you to slow down a video. I just thought, I had somebody had found it and they said, I really like it because I can speed you up and slow you down as you go through. But would this be a good thing for you to look at? All right, and then what we're going to do next, are we meeting next week?
Yeah, I mean, I can come on during the day if I'm the only one.
Well, how many people are going to be available next Wednesday? It's the day before Thanksgiving. All right. So we'll be meeting Wednesday night, and I'll record that too. But you could send it to me because what I want to do is I'd like people to I'd like you to email me and be prepared to talk about what your goals are. Does that make sense? Yes. They all go to the same place. It doesn't really matter which one you use. All right. Does everybody understand? And notice it also calculates how much money you're making per hour, assuming you're working a 40-hour week. Right? That is I can't. This is hardwired into his system, so we can't change it. But it's it's an interesting number, right? Just saying. Well, you could. How much is your marketing budget? Well, how much would you say? I put in lead generation. I put the MLS in there. I could have put it someplace else. It doesn't really matter what the category is right now. But how much is your marketing budget? $100. So you put in $100, right? And it changes all the numbers. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Any questions about that? Now, what's the bottom part of this? Prospecting and marketing, I handed that out last week, a copy of this. These are the various things that you could do from the millionaire real estate agent, from when they interview, what do you do to get business? Now, I'm going to send you, if you hate spreadsheets, you're really not going to like this class. This one is actually very simple. And this is called the lead generation. So, does everybody understand what the economic model is? You start with an income goal. You work out how much you're going to pay in terms of company dollars, how much you're going to pay in royalty fees. You look at your price. You break it down to figure out how many transactions do you need, how many appointments do you need. But what's missing from the first model is what are you going to do to get those appointments, right? Because if we look at this, it says you're going to need 17 appointments, right? So where are they going to come from? And that leads us to model number 2, which is called the lead generation model. And in ours, we had 11 transactions. Now, I'm going to send you a copy of this one too. This one is very simple. What there are, and then I'm going to actually talk about a way to get leads soon. Doesn't that sound like fun? All right. So in Kellerese, in the language of Keller Williams, we refer to the world as being in one of two groups in terms of who you could talk to. One is called the METs, METS, and a MET is somebody you've met. Isn't that clever? And somebody that you know, also known as your sphere of influence, right? Which we're going to be talking about. This is what one of the goals of the coaching system is, to have everyone that's in coaching to have a business plan for next year. Now, what we're going to do is every quarter we're going to look at our business plans and make revisions and tweak it and that sort of thing. But if you don't have a plan, it's very difficult to get anywhere. Isn't that a profound? There's somebody that said that if you don't have a goal, it doesn't matter where you're going, right? You can go in any direction because you've got no destination. So for whatever reason, goals increase our motivation and our ability to actually produce results. Right? No goals, no energy, no results. Does that make sense to everybody? So now we have a goal. We want 17. We want now. Where are we going to get these from? The two groups are the people we know and the people we don't know. I shared with some of you a little while ago that an agent had called me that I had trained a long time ago, who's working elsewhere. But she told me that I looked at her numbers. She's grossing about $2 million in commissions. Right, in San Jose. She was big in Almaden area, and she had come here without knowing a lot of people. She had moved from another area, didn't have a large sphere of influence, and she heard me say what you've heard me probably say, some of you, which is that I had asked the question, and she went through the training program I did at Century 21 a long time ago, and I said, there's the people you know and the people you don't know, and which is the biggest group in Santa Clara County? It's the people you don't know. And since she didn't know people, she devised a plan to talk to the people she did not know. Right? And she's come to know a lot of people. Now, so those are the Mets and haven't Mets. Everyone you know and everyone you meet is a potential client. That's a mindset you have to have. Some people don't want to do this. I'm just saying, right? But if you don't have that mindset, it's going to be very difficult for you to make money in real estate. Everyone you know and everyone you meet is a potential client, because either now or in the future they're going to want to buy or sell real estate. Plus, about 40% of all real estate transactions come from referrals from people that know people that want to buy and sell real estate. So if you talk to some people about real estate, you're going to get paid some, but if you talk to a lot of people about real estate, you can get paid a lot. It's a function of how many people you talk to. Now, what they found in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent was, for people that you've met, that for every 12 people that you met, that you knew, that you had a decent follow-up system, and we're going to talk about that. It's called the 33 Touch. A decent follow-up system that on average agents were getting 2 transactions a year for every 12 people. Which means that if you wanted to do 11 transactions, you would need 66 people in your database. These are people that you know that are willing to help you. And you could do 11 transactions from those 66 people, 2 for every 12. Huh? Right? Do you understand that if you found 10 people that would refer 1 person a year to you, right? Remember, you only need 11. How about this? You found 20 people that would refer a person a year. Do you understand that we're not talking about huge numbers with a 66 person database that you follow up with? Remember last week I showed you the Sphere of Influence follow-up system, right? For those of you that weren't here last week, I'll sell you a copy for I'll send you a copy, right? But a real follow-up system. Haven't met the ratio, and by the way, these are being modified a little bit in the revised edition of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent that's coming out in 2015, but it was every 50 to get 1. In other words, you would need 550 people that you've contacted and put into your database to reach that goal. Or you could split it, right? You could, and this is a number you could change if you said, well, I want 80% to come from the people that I know and 20% to come from the people I don't know, and you can change that percentage to, because some people are going to say, well, I don't know very many people, I don't have a large, so you can modify this and end up with the total number of contacts needed. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? What I'd like you to do is these 2 models, right? Because I have to report to people too, right? And so a business plan. I have a business plan, by the way, for 2015, and you should have one as well. Right? And then what we're going to do in our coaching and the training, and what I've decided to throw into the mix are some Saturday sessions where we could go through like how to set up the computer system in a more aggressive approach. Because you need to bring a computer, and we need a couple of hours. Right? And I'll record them like I record everything. Some of you have been through my real estate school know I record pretty much everything, so it would be available if you missed it, but it's a lot better to be here with your computer. All right. Now, any questions about that so far? The people who like spreadsheets are happy. All right. And I'm going to send you clean copies. Having said this, a reality that I know is that new agents in particular get their business generally from 2 sources. One is the people they already know, and number 2 are open houses. There are other things you could do to connect with people that do not involve open houses and people you already know. For example, some people join networking groups. I've known agents, I've coached agents. One of them became a marathon runner, and she'd go to Los Gatos at 7 in the morning, right, to run the Los Gatos Trail to the end and back. Right? Doesn't that sound like a fun thing to do? Um, and and had a shirt that had the name of the company and would talk to people. She was into running, and she was doing transactions with other people that were into running, right? Another agent I coached is into knitting, and she goes to knitting groups and she meets. Do you understand? Anybody you know and anybody you meet. So there's, for those of you that are younger and hipper, there's meetup.com. You can find things to do, right? Do you understand? You could find things to do. But having said that, that's sphere of influence, which you could expand. Other things you could do to talk to people you don't know is you could go knock on doors and introduce yourself and talk to people. You could call people on the phone and introduce yourself and talk to them. But what I've found is that open houses and the sphere of influence are where most of your business is likely to come from. So what I want to do is talk about how to do an open house. And actually what I'm going to talk about is how to find an open house to do. Right? That's what I'm going to do next. Doesn't that sound like fun? And the reason I've got let me see if I can see. I have a video on how to do this, but the MLS changed the system. I do social media consulting. The joke I always used to make was that people would always have to keep hiring me because Facebook would always change their system, right? So they would, I would be hired to do something, and I should be able to do something, and then a month later, they changed everything, and I'm like, good, right? Because now they don't know how to do anything anymore. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick somebody who's, Daniel, do you mind if I use your... you're not here. Oh. How about Kayla? MLS. Next week. See, I can tell. I have a login. It's called an administrative login, so I can log in as anyone. It records that I've logged in as you. But if you needed something done and you were scared to death, you could call me, and for a small fee, I would fix it for you. So the new matrix, we're gonna find, how do you do open houses, right? Now I'm going to talk about what to say at an open house and what to do. If you go to my YouTube channel, you're going to find I have like a 2-hour video on how to do open houses, which is more than you probably ever wanted to know about how to do open houses. But the first thing, if you're going to do an open house, is you have to find open houses to do. Now, I'm going to say, you've read this. Do you care? Do you want? I'll read later. I'm sure you want to read it. I didn't see. So, and by the way, the part of the reason that I wanted to mention this again is we had a meeting today with the team leader, Jeff, myself, and the transaction partners, also known as mentors. Some of you haven't picked one yet. I have an updated list of people that we could talk about that. But one of the comments, one of the discussion points was, how come there's some people that aren't doing anything? And I'll tell you something, one of the things that really hurts when I hear that one of the top agents is calling Mona, who's the administrator, or posting on the Keller Williams website that they're desperate to find somebody to do an open house for them. This shames me as a coach. I'm just telling you. So, because I've done this many times, they actually asked me if I ever have explained how to find open houses to do, and I told them I got proof. There were people in the room. I'll give you their names. So I'm going to show you what you should do so that you could find open houses to do. Now, this is what Matrix looks like. The MLS has its own training program. Can anybody guess how you would find training program? Matrix is the name of the software. There's a button that says training. My goodness. And if you click on the button, they have live classes. They have a YouTube channel. The MLS has a YouTube channel. They have training videos. You ought to watch some of them, but we're doing an open house. By the way, I have a little bit of time. Let me just explain what I would do if I were logging in. The first thing I would do is look at the button that says My Matrix. And what you want to look at is, how about let's start with My Information. And you should notice like a phone number would be nice. A website would be good. A title, I'm a real estate consultant. What's a fax machine? What's a fax number? I think I sort of remember. We don't use faxes much anymore, but we have a fax machine. And by the way, it doesn't use much toner, because we don't fax much anymore. You could put in the office address if you wanted to, and a tagline would be clients first, everything I touch turns to sold. Call me, I need the money. So you might want to fill out. By the way, it's not just that new people don't do this. I meet experienced agents and I go to this and they haven't filled any of this out. So notice there's a whole bunch of little things across here. Header and footer, the way the MLS works, and I'm going to show you how to use the Keller Williams system, because there's some reasons when you're first connecting with people to use their MLS search. But the button, the default says I choose not to have a header or footer at this time. What this is talking about is that if you send listings to somebody, they click on the link, it takes them to what's called a portal. And a portal is sort of like your little mini website for the MLS. Did you know that you could have your picture, your contact information, your slogan, and all that kind of stuff on the portal? You can pick from that list, and if you're thinking I would like to upload a custom one, you could do that too. Right? I could see that you were thinking, how do I upload a custom one? But I would recommend that you pick one of these. Notice this would require that you've given them your picture as well. Yes? Where does it say My Matrix? If you logged into the MLS, then My Matrix is a button across the top. It doesn't matter if it's a new system or the old system. Have you logged in? Well, are you logged into the new Matrix? So is this what you're looking at? This is what you're looking at? You have to click on the new Matrix or the old Matrix. This page, I'm sorry, I should have gone slower at the beginning. This page is basically the desktop for all the different MLS tools, which we're going to eventually go through. Yes? No, this is for everybody. This is the multiple listing service. Now, the old Matrix is going to go away. Managing listings are what you do when you have a listing. Rapid List is what you do when you have a listing. Real List is a program that accesses the title company records that bring up information about when did they buy it and their taxes and all that other thing. RPR stands for the Realtor Property Resource, which makes really nice looking market analysis for people. I'm going to explain how to use it. Find is another way to find records. This works all over the place. App Store is where you can buy stuff. And over here on the left, this allows you, SFAR is the San Francisco Association of Realtors. East Bay is Alameda County and a little bit more. CRMLS is the a group of associations in Southern California. This is So anyhow, we're not going to go through all these, but this is the where all the different things are. What you want to do is click on New Matrix is Live. All right. You have to get beyond that page, and now you're looking at something like this. That's where you're going to find My Matrix. And if you go down to settings, it gives you my information. This is looking at it a little bit differently. The header and footer, the mobile header, which is a little bit different because mobile phones don't have as much space. CMA cover sheet. What does CMA stand for? I always thought it was the Country Music Awards. Comparative market analysis. And then you should also edit your email signature. Doesn't that seem like a good idea? So there are other things we could do here, but that's the big one, right? You want to go to settings and at least do the My Information. The rest of these things we'll work out on a different time. So, but that wasn't the first thing I wanted to do. I wanted to show you how to find open houses. Isn't that what I was? But that, by the way, that little introduction is an important thing, because if you don't set up your system and you start sending people listings and they don't know your phone number, and it looks sloppy, and they click on the link and it's an ugly, you might want to just spend some time doing that. So we're going to click on residential search. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and this is the basic search that you get. And by the way, of the many things you need to learn, this is one of them. Right? Of the many different component parts to become a successful real estate agent, one of the things you're going to have to learn is how to use the MLS. The better you are at finding things on the MLS, the more business you're going to do. Whether you know this or not, Zillow, Trulia, and most of those other sites are using what's called an IDX feed. And what IDX stands for is Internet Data Exchange. So they're taking raw data from MLSs all over the United States, and they're aggregating them on their site. That process strips out a lot of information, which means that it is not possible to do a search on Trulia to the same degree of specificity as you could do on the MLS itself. I haven't counted recently, but the last time I did, this is how boring my social life is, there was 135 searchable fields in the MLS. Right? How many searchable fields are there in Zillow? Not very many. Right? So there's certain things that they cannot do. So your ability to find homes that they can't find on their own. Right? The idea that people can find everything that you could find all on their own is not necessarily true. So you're going to need to learn how to use this. But this doesn't look like 135 fields, does it? At the very bottom, hidden away, is a button that says Additional Fields and Add. And I'm clicking on that. And there are no additional fields. You can see, if you say, where are the 135 fields? Where are the 135 fields? Right? I counted them one time. But you get the idea. What we're looking for now is we're looking for Listing Office Broker Code. Listing Office Broker Code. And we're going to click on Add. And it's made the Listing Office Broker Code appear, and then we're going to click on Back. Listing Office Broker Code, we're going to click on Back. Now that we've done this, when we scroll down to the bottom, notice there's another field we didn't have before. By the way, you could add a whole bunch. Some people, I'm just warning you, some people thought, well, this is great, I'm going to add all the fields. I'm just going to add them all. Right, and then remove them later. It's a long list of fields, right? So you could do that, and it wouldn't hurt to do that just to play around and see what each one is, because some of them, like where is a fixer-upper or a probate sale found, is not an intuitive thing. Yes?
Is this all going to be one page?
One page, it just scrolls down forever.
No, I mean when you print
You're not going to print. That's a totally different subject. Printing and creating a report. What we're doing now is we're modifying the searchable criteria. Right. What comes out of that is a pretty much set thing, unless you do an export, in which case you can export it into a format that could be opened by. We're not going to go there yet. Okay, we're just simply, right now we're going to find open houses. Now, our broker code is KWSV, and I'm putting in a comma, KWSC. Now, the reason I put those two codes in is that our broker, his name is Michael Sibilia, is also the operating principal. That means he's the representative of the investors. Those two functions, by the way, aren't always tied together. Some offices, the broker is a different person than the operating principal. In our group, it happens to be the same guy. And that group owns Gateway, the San Jose office, the Santa Cruz office, and the Campbell office. So for legal purposes, one broker. Now, I'm going to explain later that technically there are three different broker licenses because there's three different corporations, but it's the same person, right? And so the rule is you can only do open houses for our group. In other words, you're not supposed to do an open house for Coldwell Banker. What happens if we get sued? Our errors and omissions insurance are not going to cover you doing an open house for somebody other than that broker, one of our three. Now, KWSV there's also what's called the office code, which I'm not bothering with. Campbell is 01 and San Jose is 02. We don't need to worry about that because KWSV gets them both. And KWSC is Santa Cruz. And now if you're saying, I don't want to do an open house in Santa Cruz. By the way, some people say, I would love to do an open house in Santa Cruz. But if you want to just do open houses in Santa Clara County, you could go up here, see where it says county? And you could type in SCC is Santa Clara County. However, some of you might be saying, well, how about San Mateo County? I wouldn't mind doing an open house up there. You leave it blank then, and you'll get the feed for every listing we've got. Right? Question.
So you say leave it blank, so can we do open houses for just the broker?
For any, you could do no, you can do any open houses from our group, which is San Jose, Campbell, and Santa Cruz. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on active, because you probably aren't going to do an open house on something that's not active. Right now, no, I'm not including pendings. Right now, there are 44 active listings among this group. If you wanted to limit it to Santa Clara County, you could go up here to county and type in SCC. If you don't care, then don't. Now we're down to 16, right? Because we have listings in San Mateo County. By the way, if you say, well, I'd like to do Santa Clara County and San Mateo County, you see this little guy on the side here? If you click on that, this is going to pop up, and you can pick the counties to move over, all right? I'm just doing Santa Clara County because that's the most common one. That's 16. So one thing you could do is we're going to run the search. You could call all those agents up, introduce yourself, ask them if they need any help with an open house, right? As a starting point. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button that says New Listing. You see that here? This is under Hot Sheet. And I might want to just sometimes I do 0 minus, let's say 7. So that means in the 0 minus 7 is I want to see anything that has changed in the last 7 days. And so there have been, 7 listings in the last 7 days. Is everybody with me? Right? I'm recording this. You can slow it down. We're going to click on results. So here are the 7 listings. Now, of course, you could call these people. I would call if you want to do an open house, I'd call everyone if you click on this little box up here, notice it's highlighted them all, and notice how this bar changed. Let me go back to that. Right now, you can refine the criteria or look at statistics, but when we click on this, notice how this bar changes, including the ability to save it. And when we click on save, we get two choices. One is a save search. The other one is a new auto email. We're going to pick that one. Now, what you would want to do is, and at this point where I'm not going to finish this because you're going to need to, well, let's see, why not? Put in your own name. What is it? What email do you use? I have to find the underscore in the dark. Dot at gmail.com. All right. I'm sorry. What's missing? Where? C-A-Y. All right. All right. Is that good? All right. So we save it. And so notice what this requires is that you put yourself in as a contact. And then we're going to make a subject line, new, come here, come on. New office listing. And if you want, you could write yourself a little message to remind you why you've sent this up in the first place. Right? Call them and ask if you can do an open house. Notice what her signature looks like. Just her name. Right? So you could edit it right now, but right now we're sending emails to her. And then as you go down, I would suggest you click on ASAP. Notice it bumped up. The choices were daily or monthly. We're going to pick ASAP and hit save. And if you don't like this, you can go in and change it later. But what this is going to do is that, first of all, the ones that are already here, she's not going to get, because they're here and they figure you'd look at them. But what's going to happen is that whenever there's a new listing by Keller Williams of Santa Cruz. By the way, the people in Santa Cruz that get listings over here, and we get listings over there, do you think they necessarily want to drive over here to do the open house? Right. So what you would do, what should happen now, whenever we get a listing, Kayla's going to get a email that has, as soon as it happens, that has, and by the way, in it, you might need to look up the agent's phone number. Right, but usually it has the listing agent's phone number on it. You're going to get an email. It oftentimes won't have the listing agent's phone number on it because you're just sending it to yourself, and they usually send what's called the client view, which would have the listing agent's name but not the phone number. You can get all of our agents, how am I doing on time? If you log into kw.com, I'll be wrapping this up in shortly. You log in, so you're saying, well, now how do I find their phone number? By the way, in Matrix, you could log in, and there's a section up here that says find an agent, and you could just find the agent. At kw.com, by the way, you could go over here where it says find an agent and put in the agent's name, and it would tell you their phone number. Right? So it requires a little bit of effort, but what Kayla is going to do is when she gets the email, she's going to get the listing agent's phone number and call him or her up and say, congratulations. I see you just listed a house at, I would love to help you with an open house. Right? Yes. Yeah, yes. This is it. Yes, we're going to cover that too. My YouTube channel has a 2-hour video of me going through how to do an open house. Right. There's a 2-hour video. So it wouldn't kill you. By the way, so what I want to do is I'm going to click on this. I'm going to log in. I'm just going to log in as myself for now to kw.com. So the question is, all right, so you can't stand to go through my 2-hour video. Come on, log in. It's slow. Did you have a question, Daniel?
Yeah, I was gonna say, once you're done with those lists, do you have to go back and do it, or they mail you?
They email it to you.
That's what
They send you an email. The email is a link to a portal. And you have to click on the link. What you all ought to do is play with this, right? You understand? You ought to email yourself some listings and see what a client is going to go through, right? So that you practice it. So here's Keller Williams, right? Log in. Over here, there's a button that says Education. One of them is KW Connect. I'm going to click on this. This is in addition to my 2-hour long video. You click on Agents, and what you're going to find is Hold an Effective Open House. Oh, that seems interesting. You click on that, and this is a short little video on how to hold an open house. So I'm going to go over here to the search bar and type in open house. And I'm going to see KW hold an effective open house, hold an effective open house. Step 4, open house success plan. Build your brand with successful open houses is another video. Build my business with KW technology. One of them that's about using the KW system. So in addition to my 2-hour video, there's a bunch of stuff online about holding an open house. All right. And my video, by the way, is based on a training program called Ignite. And one of the things that you ought to do, I'm going to be covering some of these as we go through the material. But if you type in Ignite in the search box, what you're going to find is the first link is an 18-course session. If you click on that, you can download all the student materials and the toolkit, which is here, and there's a complete 100-page long thesis on holding open houses that you're going to find among that, including scripts. Watch my 2-hour video, but we're going to talk about this as we go through. You have to have an open house. By the way, how many of you have ever been to a real estate agent open house? How hard did it look? I mean, how hard? Now, there is some technique involved in it. Watch my video, because you may have been to some bad ones, but we're not talking about rocket surgery. That's not right. All right, we're not talking about rocket surgery, but we're talking about this is not a difficult thing to do. Okay? Was that good enough? So what are you going to do? You're going to do, I'm going to email all of you. Did everybody sign in? Okay.
How about the signs?
Where
Where do you get the signs?
do you get signs? Like for doing the open house? For doing the open house? First of all, one of the things you're going to need to invest in at some point in time is getting your own open house signs, but listing agents have them. I used to love to let agents borrow my open house signs because I'd be sitting at home and my phone would ring and somebody would start asking me questions about a house, right? Because my phone number is on my open house signs. And so I knew that I would lose some by letting agents borrow them, but I also was selling homes because they put my signs up all over town. So a lot of times the listing agent's going to say, oh yeah, I got signs, don't worry about that. You're going to use my signs. Because the listing agent would want you to use their signs in that neighborhood, plus the office has some too. Plus they're not that expensive. Yes?
So I guess the thing that I'm thinking the most about is, you call a listing agent and say, I'll help you with your open house, and they'll say, great, go do that. So your goal there is to obtain, obviously, potential clients for yourself. What does the listing agency expect? Do they expect a list of potential clients for themselves? Or, that's what's confusing me.
All right. Well, if you watch my video, I'll go through it. First of all, some of the agents will give you a list of what they expect. They don't expect you to give them your leads that you get at the open house. Most of them will allow you, by the way, and I'm going to show how do you make an open house flyer. for yourself for that property. It's very easy using eEdge. In fact, I think in my 2-hour video, I do go through that. So, yeah, and so you can look at, so you can you can make your own flyers that have your name and your picture and your phone number to give to people, and then you put them in the box on the outside. Remember to replace them with the listing agents when you're done, if you want to ever do the open house again. Right, and I go through what the etiquette is, but basically these are your leads. Why does the listing agent has told the seller they're going to do an open house every weekend until it sells, right? And the agent tires. I hated to do open houses, right? I mean, I would do them the first time or that sort of thing, but one time I had 15 listings at one point. Right, I'm not doing open houses every weekend, right? And once you get enough people that wanted to do them, I wasn't doing them on any of them most of the time. Right, I had a lot of for sale signs, a lot of open house signs. So you'll find agents. What happens is, in fact, this was discussed at our meeting today, is that some of the top agents are calling the office, asking, "Is there anyone that you can find to do an open house for me?" This hurts because I've shown this so many times. I expect Kayla to call them, right, at least, and say, can you, because on the weekend you could do an open house, couldn't you? Right, and you might meet somebody that wants to buy a house or sell a house, and that could be one of your 11 transactions. My rule of thumb was I needed to do 4 open houses to get a client, right? That varies, but if you're doing an open house 1 day a week, every weekend, right, you could get a transaction a month out of that if you learned how to do them well. Right? If somebody shows up, well, you have to go. I would go. First of all, when we talk about how to do an open house, you had to knock on the doors around the open house and with a flyer to invite people to come to it, right, and have a little chit chat with them, right? Things like, gee, when I'm talking to people, what would you say are the best reasons to live in this neighborhood? Right? What would you say is good about living in the area? How long have you lived here? Really? When do you plan on selling your home? Do you know anybody that would like to move into the neighborhood? I had people where they would tell me, yeah, I have a friend at work who wants to move into the neighborhood. I didn't know that they're right. So, you can have conversations with people with the open house being the bait. Right? Sure.
It's for the Keller Williams site. The WolfNet is not configured on mine.
I will look at it.
Okay.
All right. I will. One of the things. All right. So I'm stopping this.